If you wanted to practice this type of style and this type of way of asking questions to get the people to give you the information so that you can help them find solutions, you can do this anywhere in your world. You can take a friend out to lunch and all of a sudden they're talking about, their job they're currently at. And all of a sudden you can start going what's causing you to even think about maybe making a job change right now? What's going on there? It's a natural thing of asking questions, listening, caring. And then if you hear everything they've said, then you can be like, have you ever thought about doing this?
Welcome everyone to 10 Tenths, where we coach real estate agents out of burnout and into high-performing businesses that fuel their lives. As always, I'm Matt Benelli, joined by the great Garrett Fry, and we are excited for you guys to be here. And we have a really fun announcement. One of our core frameworks that we've created here at 10 Tenths is the engagement engine. A lot of times people get stuck in prescribed, workflows of do exactly this thing, call this many people, send this many text messages, do this many of the other things. And Garrett and I have looked at that and said, what if you could build your own customized workflow that ranges from your marketing all the way to those close one-on-one communication touch points that you have. And it's called the Engagement Engine, and we're going to teach it to all of you for free. So come join us on April 17th at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. Just go to 10tenths.co. That's 10 tenths spelled out .co, and you'll find a highlighted thing there where you can click and register for this free webinar. Garrett, it's going to be amazing. Good morning to you. I'm a huge fan of our engagement engine, and I'm excited that we get to teach it to everybody.
Well, I'm excited to be able to go through it. And what inspired it to come to be is that in all the coaching that I've ever done, what I find is that when you get a really strict framework of this is just what you got to go do, there are some outliers out there. There's actually a lot of outliers out there where you might have a system that says you need to go have 2 lunches a week. Well, I've seen people that do 14 lunches a week. And then what they do is they kick themselves because they're not making enough phone calls. And I'm like, hold on a second here. Stop kicking yourself. Let's look at your business. Let's look what generates your business, because that person I just talked about on their own does 70 sides a year, 70 sides a year, but they're beating themselves up because they're maybe not making enough phone calls to this prescribed system that they're following. And this is where, Matt, you and I, we stood back and we said, okay, we need to re-look at how these systems are interpreted, how you're showing up for your business, what is causing the results to happen. And that's what made us create the engagement engine, so that you can actively look at it and go, okay, I can see where I'm making the impact. I can see where I'm making up for in different ways. And I can see where my impact or my natural gifts, talents, what I bring to the table, I can amplify them and really focus on those, and it will actually work better than trying to figure out how to do X amount of some other system that is not natural to me. So I'm excited, man. We're gonna have some fun.
Me too. And it creates alignment with your life in a better way. Just like you can have a 4-cylinder, a 6-cylinder, an 8-cylinder, 10-cylinder engine that all go 0 to 60 in 5 seconds in their respective vehicles. But that engine is built specifically in a certain way for that vehicle, and you are a very specific vehicle, and you should have your own specific engine that is built properly for you. And if you want, you can put a cool exhaust on the back.
You're a unique, special butterfly. All right. So with that being said, we have a podcast today, and we're going to talk about how really questions create awareness is what we're going to talk about. Questions create awareness, and awareness creates decisions. And Matt, I wanted to dive into this today because there's a lot of agents that I'm coaching right now that they will say things to me, and this is, by the way, not news, goes on forever, where they have clients and they're like, I've got all these buyers, but they just won't make a decision. They won't move forward. And it feels a little harsh to be like, you do realize that part of your power, your superpower, is to ask the right questions to help them get clarity so that they can move forward. Because anytime there's this confusion in here, the brakes get put on any decision making. And so that awareness creates the ability of making decisions. This is what we're going to talk about today, is what we're going to kind of dive into, because it's all about asking better questions. Every training, every sales thing I've ever been to is always about how do we ask better questions. But Man, I think that the thing we need to pay attention to here is it's not always for us to know the answers. It's for them to have to deal with that question and figure out, okay, now having to answer this for the professional, now the wheels get turning and they go, you know what we should do? Oh, decision making. Here, we made it. We found it. And I think those are those moments we need to understand that's what our gift is. That's what our job is to navigate through these these difficult moments to help people find clarity.
Yeah, and this discussion we're going to have is inspired by a book we just read that you suggested that we read, Garrett, which is called "Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play," which is a late '90s B2B sales book. And what really kind of uncovered all this, which is why we want to talk about today, is that they highlight early on in the book that solutions on their own essentially have no value. Unless they are connected to a problem, they have no value. And the challenge that we face in any industry, and this rings very true in real estate, is that most of the time there's this mutual conspiracy between the consultant or real estate agent and the client to just immediately talk about solutions. Client thinks, I need to sell my house. I need to buy a house. I need to go to an agent who has a solution for me to do. Agent goes, yes, I have a solution. I want to help you do this. Let's go do this. And then we're in it. And Garrett, this is where we find ourselves. I had a conversation with an agent the other day where it's like, why are we doing this again? Right? Like, what's the real reason behind this? What's the problem? What's the puzzle that we're trying to solve? Not just, oh, well, I want more space, or I want less space, or whatever. It's like, no, what's the underlying awareness that we need to address? And Garrett, I think this is where, in this framework that you highlighted, questions, awareness, decisions, it's on us to ask really great questions with really good intent so that awareness can happen on the client side, so that together we can arrive at a solution that leads to decisions that are being made.
Yeah.
And yeah,
one of my favorite things is to ask questions I already know the answers to, but I just need them to actually voice it. I need them to say it. I need them to process what that is. And all of a sudden, when it comes out of their mouth, for me, that's when I know we're on the same page. That's when I know we're all of a sudden speaking the same language. And the whole goal is to figure out, well, what problem are we really trying to solve for? What is really at the table here? Because I know a lot of really great listing presentations. I've seen a lot of really great listing presentations. I've been in many real estate offices where the top producer would sit down and be like, let me show all of you my listing presentation. And the problem is they have no problem they're solving for. They're just going, here's where I show them my postcards. Here's where I show them my websites. Here's where I show them this. And it's like, but great, but what are we solving for? And this is where I think a presentation goes from amateur hour to professional. This is where when you go, yeah, we can all present solutions to all kinds of stuff, but the solutions only mean something when there's a problem that we're actually solving. And so this kind of led us into when you get that chance, Matt, to first get that opportunity to talk with somebody, what are some things we should be focusing on? What are some directions we should be going? And I think one of my kind of go-to here is what is prompting you to want to do this right now? What is happening right now? What is causing us to have this phone call? Why are you reaching out to me? Because you're going to find here, are you just looking for a price? Are you, do you actually need to sell? Well, we got to be out of here in 30 days because we got a job transfer and we got to go. Is this something you were just information gathering because we got this big property and we're not quite sure what the uses are for it? Maybe we should develop it. Maybe we should, just parcel it all out into different pieces. Maybe we should hold it all together because maybe the value is having this whole thing be one. We just need clarity, and you have to figure that out up front. Because instantly you could be going, I got myself a listing appointment I'm going on. And then we get so mad when all of a sudden we're like, they wasted my time. Well, no, you didn't understand the problem. And this is where I think we got to ask that question up front. What is prompting you to want to do this right now? Or why are we even kind of going down this meeting today?
Well, I like this word prompt too, because a lot of people say, well, I asked them why they're selling. I asked them why they're buying, which does give you some information, but I think it also invites a surface answer of, well, we have a job transfer. Oh, that's cool, right? Whereas the prompt could be, yes, we have a job transfer and it's the job of a lifetime, right? It gives you a setup to dig more into the why, because Garrett, I find a lot of times when we ask someone, why do you want to do one thing or another, whether it's buying or selling real estate or wanting to grow your business, the first why is not the why. The second why is also usually not the why, right? And that's where this prompting comes in, which leads to kind of another question that we were discussing, which is, well, what are the pain points about this current situation right now? What's not working at the moment for you with this? Like, why are we even addressing this issue so that we can start to identify what does this puzzle look like? Because if we don't know what's not working, then what are we really solving? And it doesn't mean that not working needs to be bad, Garrett. I think a lot of times when we talk about problems, people will say, well, but they don't have to sell. They don't have to buy. It's something that's going to bring them joy if they do it. Great. But we still need to uncover what this puzzle looks like, so that we understand that there is something to be solved here, whether it's something that's causing pain or something that can bring a whole lot of joy.
So it's interesting. So I have a good friend right now that currently is working down in basically San Francisco is where he's stationed up at right now. His family's all up here though. His kids are kind of grown. They're out. Wife has a great job up here. And I'm watching them. And there was an actual conversation we had the other day where he's like, I'm not making enough money to almost make this worthwhile. He goes, so I'm trying to make a decision right now of, do I go and take a bigger job down in the city, which will make even more money? But at that point in time, now I'm going to figure out how to sell the house up here and move down south. If not, if I'm not going to fully commit to this down here, I just need to stop doing this and move back up and be up in Redding, California. And I think that, there's a place in there, if I was their realtor brought in to be like, hey, let's talk about the value of the house up here. When you ask the question, like, what's not currently working about your situation right now? Well, he's not spending the quality time that he wants with the people that he loves in his life, which right now is his son living at home and his wife. Like, those are that finding out that little moment where it's like, I am suffering being away from the people that I love, and I'm not getting to meet up with them enough and to make this world work. That would be what's not currently working. And I think that you get into that, now all of a sudden you're in the trenches with them. Now you're in the relationship almost. You understand what the values are and the importance of this. It's not just, I got a job down south and I'm commuting a lot, and that's why we're thinking about just maybe making the move down there. That is the surface level stuff that we got to get down below, and you can only get there by asking the right questions.
Yeah, well, that creates a whole different level of connection of understanding too, because now we can understand, why are we here, and the emotional connection to what's not working, which starts to build this picture of what are we truly here to solve, Garrett? Because even with just those two questions, I feel like if your friend was a client of ours, I'm like, gosh, I understand this, because it could have just been like, oh, I need to go take the job, and make more money, but there's actually a bigger decision to make here.
Yep.
And so now we have to figure out, how do we navigate this initial, kind of challenge here and navigate towards a decision point, which, by the way, could result in services not being required. Like if you're the realtor down in the big city, it could be, based on this conversation we're having, it sounds like moving back up to Redding is the thing for you.
Yep.
And that's obviously not where I'm going to come in, but it seems like the decision that's going to be made here, which that's okay. Like, oh my gosh, if we can arrive at a solution that makes sense, this is the pathway that we can start to get there, Garrett. And there's some other questions we talked about too.
Well, so continuing with my friend here, just for fun, like, what have you tried already? Like, what have you already tried to solve for this pain point that you have right now? And currently right now, he would say, well, what we did is I've leased a property, an apartment down there. I've been commuting back and forth on the weekends. In that trial, like, how has that been working for you to try to solve for what you're trying to accomplish here? Now, I know for a fact, my friend, the gentleman has raced with us a lot in the past, I know I have a race this weekend, and his words that came out of his mouth, which I know were hard for him to say, is, I can't race with you that weekend because that's my weekend to spend with my wife. And I don't get to see her during the week, so I have to bow out of that race this weekend. He loves racing. He loves the weekends that we get to have him to do this because I've had lots of conversations with him about it. These are the pain points that start to show up with, yeah, we're making it work. We tried this. I got the job. I got the apartment. I'm seeing my wife on the weekends. But is it perfect? Like, is it working? I'm having to say no to a lot of things that I enjoy. I don't know if I'm making the money that I thought I was going to be making. The territory they thought they were going to give me isn't quite working out. So I'm trying to figure out what is the next step here. This is where they have tried it. And I think it's important to ask whether they tried it by a for sale by owner, whether they've tried it by remodeling a house to go like, we thought we could add on the extra bedroom to make room for, the family as the family dynamics change. And it's just not going to work. It's just the solution isn't there. You have to dig in and find out what that is and what they're trying to solve for.
And I think for this question too, Garrett, particularly in a real estate scenario, this is also asking like, well, what have you looked at? Right. And this is a pure understanding question. We are not diving in with competitive solutions or anything like that, because it could just be a question of understanding, well, what have you looked at already? Because if a buyer's coming to you and you're doing a buyer consult, I can almost guarantee that 9 out of 10 people that are coming to you have already spent time on Zillow, looking in what price range they think they're in the areas that they think they want to move into. And I've even seen in some cases, people already picking out the house that they want to buy. And I actually had this situation with someone I know. They're like, yeah, we were thinking we were moving here. And I had already picked out the house. I'm like, before you even talked to anybody, you just already had it picked out? Like, yep, already had it picked out, knew what we wanted to do. And so understanding that up front is going to help a lot when we start to paint the perfect picture that we're trying to ultimately lead to at some point. But if we don't hear that, and here's the thing, we have to be very, very careful, Garrett. I feel like this is the point where we can jump in and go, oh, no, don't do that. Or wait, maybe have you thought of doing it this way? I think it's okay to ask questions of like, have you tried this or have you tried that? Just to understand if they have. But this isn't a place to go solve. We're still uncovering and understanding. And now I know that sounds like it's taking a long time for us to get to but I just want to be able to share the solution with them. The more we uncover this, the easier it also is going to be, I think, Garrett, for someone to paint that picture, which is another great question to ask as we're moving along, which is like, well, what does the ideal outcome look like? Like, what do you really want this to be at the end of the day? And not necessarily what do you want the house to be? How do you want this process to work? Like, if you could see this fast forwarding the exact way that you'd want it to look like, what does that look like? And now we're starting to pull, it's kind of like getting the picture on the front of the box of the puzzle, Garrett. I mean, I know there's some people out there who can build puzzles without knowing what it's going to be. I'm not necessarily one of those people. It depends on how many pieces there are.
It's a challenge.
But those 5,000 piece puzzles, you dump it out, you look at the picture and you're like, okay, the greens are over here, the blues are over here. Let's find the edges and all that stuff. But having that picture there really helps you start to put this puzzle together.
Oh, and again, we got to know, because it all goes back to what are we solving for? We have all kinds of solutions, but what are we solving for? And if you ask any consumer out there, if you sat down with them and said, I have 5,000 potential solutions here in a box. They're incredible. They're amazing. But at the end of the day, there's only one in here that's actually going to solve the situation in the world that you're currently in right now. Would you like me to go through all 5,000 of these have you all of a sudden go, "Ooh, that's the one. That's the one I was waiting for you to say." I'm so happy you brought that up, because actually they're going to fall asleep before you all know the people that have fallen asleep at your presentation. I'm just telling you right now. But
I've sat on my own presentations back when I've sat in on other agents' presentations where I'm falling asleep. I'm just like, what are we doing here?
I've done it. It happens. So if I had the ability of pulling the one solution out of the box here that's actually going to solve for what you want to do, is it okay that we spend a little time and ask some questions here right now and I learn a little bit about your situation? Like, it's okay to ask permission. As Matt, you said, like, oh, this is taking some time, but oh my gosh, the time savings. Because the worst thing you can do is all of a sudden develop the working relationship and you have a misunderstanding of the problem that you're trying to solve for. And then we are just butting heads through this process where they're finally going, you know what? We're going to try a different agent here. We just need a different approach. We need someone to look at this from a different angle. a lot of that happens because we are trying to solve for a different problem than what they actually are trying to solve for. We're not speaking the language around it. And so I like this whole kind of like, what would this ideal outcome look like? I go back to my friend who's living, commuting down south 5 days out of the week, living down the Bay Area, 2 days out of the week, making sure he can come up here and see his wife. What would an ideal outcome look like? If you look at a year from now, what would you like this life to look like? It might be around money. It might be like, oh, the bigger job down south, making more money, and then I can have my wife move down. Maybe it is finding this right place that his wife can keep a job that she absolutely loves. And I know what she does. And I know when you hear him talk about his wife, you can tell it's like this, that makes his heart sing, is seeing how happy she is. When you start to get into those pieces of the ideal outcome, he might all of a sudden have that moment of going, you know what? The ideal outcomes, I need to be back up north. Or maybe there's a solution for her doing what she does down here that I'm not even thinking about. Maybe there's something in here we have to be talking about and thinking about. And so this is, again, the ideal outcome is beautiful because, again, this is where you start to get an idea of what does the solution look like, so I know what we're going towards.
Yeah, and it also brings contrast to, because we've entered this awareness phase with the client, so to speak, where they know exactly where they are. They have a lot better awareness on where they want to go. And now the difference between those two is the value. What is the value of getting there? And it kind of moves that conversation along, because that then starts to explain the value of your service, right? Because if there's a big value gap there, oh man, your service is going to be asked for. It's going to be well received. They're going to perceive it as a ton of value. If there's a really small little gap between where they are and where they want to go, your service may not be as valuable. They may still need assistance, but it may not be your service that they need. And this gets into all of a sudden the decision making on, okay, how are we going to move forward with this? What does the solution look like here? And how do we move forward together or separately if that is the path, right? And this is where we get into, a lot of people say, ooh, these are the closing questions. We get into now like close the deal, right? These are the solution questions, and we just have to understand there could be some pain. There could be like, well, hey, if we don't do this, like what is the pain of staying where you are? What happens if we don't achieve that goal? What does that do for you, right? It's like when people want to sell their house because they're moving for a job and they're listing it too high. It's like, well, what happens if you don't sell the house?
Yep.
Are you okay with carrying two houses? Like those are the types of questions we need to talk through when we're getting into these solutions, Garrett. And then it's a lot easier to then ask for the business and move forward together, because you essentially have built a solution together. Or this is where you pull out your stuff and you're like, hey, does this process seem like something that is going to work for you in getting you from where you are now to this ideal life that you just painted a beautiful picture of?
Well, so one thing to think about for everybody out here is that we're talking about this in the real estate world. If you wanted to practice this type of style and this type of like way of asking questions to get the people to give you the information so that you can help them find solutions, you can do this anywhere in your world. You can take a friend out to lunch and all of a sudden they're talking about, their job they're currently at. And all of a sudden you can start going like, what's causing you to even think about maybe making a job change right now? Like what's going on there? You look at like, what's not working at the current situation of the company that you're working at. You start diving down through all this stuff. You don't have to be trying to solve a real estate deal. You don't have to be getting them to go like, okay, we're hiring you for this. It's a natural thing of asking questions, listening, caring. And then if you hear everything they've said, then you can be like, have you ever thought about doing this? Have you ever thought about trying this direction here? It might have nothing to do with hiring you, but it's a great gift to be able to bring to your relationships, the people are around you. And yeah, in your business, it makes you very, very, very attractive when you're someone that cares that much. And I have found more often than not, when we slow down the process and we start asking a lot of questions up front, it might feel like a long time. It might feel like this drawn out thing that we're doing and learning and asking and learning and growing together. but it is the one thing that will solidify a working relationship like nothing I have ever seen. It's the difference of the clients that use you once and go, yeah, Matt, thanks. You helped us with the house, to the ones that are like, we will never, ever, ever buy or sell a house without Matt Benelli, because how he cares about us, how he understands what's important to us, how he knows what really means, the highest of importance stuff. It's what develops those incredible relationships, those long-term relationships. So I would encourage all of you, take the time, slow things down and really get to know what your people are trying to accomplish, and don't bore them with a huge old presentation. Don't bore them with, I got 1,000 solutions, I know I can help you. Just show them one. Show them the right one that's going to work for them, and they will go, you're our person. That's what we're going to do. We're going to move forward with you.
Yeah, and build it together with them through the process of asking questions and defining awareness or becoming aware. And I will say, Garrett, you got to check your ego at the door on some of this stuff, because we all, and we do this in coaching, we work together with people to come up with great processes, great presentation, so to speak, in terms of the material and content that's there. And I'm not saying you're going to throw that stuff away. You're just going to use it strategically to help the client solve their problem, not to get another piece of business. And that is the most important part of this in general. And all the great sales books, including this one that inspired our conversation today, talk about that. This is all about serving the customer, serving the client, and helping them get to where they want to go, not you trying to fit your solution into every situation that you can so that you can get paid. And this all starts with having a genuine interest in asking questions so that we can uncover what problem or puzzle we're actually really solving for, Garrett.
Well,
so
we would love to know what you think about this. So if you're not following on YouTube, go to YouTube, go check us out there. You can write your comments in. You can go grab our app, and in the app, you'll find all the episodes and you can get to everything there. If you want to come join us for the webinar that we've got going on coming up, please go to 10tenths.co. And what you'll do is you'll find the landing page there. You'll be able to see all the information of what it's about and what we got going on. So we'd love to have you come join us on that. Matt, do you have the dates on that real quick again?
So April 17th, it's a Friday, and we're going to be kicking the whole thing off at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. And it's totally free. So
I love it. I love it. We're going to have some fun.
Awesome.
And at the end of the day, your business should fuel your life, not consume it. And if that sounds like the world you want to be in, come join us at Life at 10 Tenths. We would love to have you there. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, everybody.